Army Navy, it's finally here. How you feeling about 5 days out?
Like you normally feel, it's always Army Week, so there's always the emotions, the anxiety, the excitement. Kids are looking forward, our team's looking forward to it, our school's looking forward to it. It's an exciting time.
You talk about it a lot, but what is so special about this game in particular?
Just, I think that obviously the two institutions that are represented and what they symbolize and what they represent, first and foremost. And again, they're representing our country. It's another part of it. It's not a regional game, but I think what both schools represent, what both schools players would do after they play, and it being a game that touches all of America, that it makes it different, makes it special.
And lastly, being back in the city of brotherly love, 90th time overall, it's been in Philly. Just what does it mean to be playing at the link this week?
Well, we enjoyed playing there. It's been good to us. It's good to us last time we went there, and so we like playing there. People in Philadelphia have been awesome. Obviously, they enjoy the game, and all from the mayor to Philadelphia Eagles to everybody involved. They've been awesome in welcoming us, and it's been a great venue for us to play the game. And like I said, for us, it's been a good venue for us, playing wise, and we've had some success there.
Thank you.
Scott Wyckoff, WBAL Radio.
Hey, Coach, what's been your biggest takeaway since the players came back from that week off that you gave them on the practice field?
They did a good job when they're away. You're always nervous as a coach. Give guys time off. What are they going to do? And for the most part, really the team, they did a really good job taking care of themselves, going and seeing their family. But when they came back, we had good practices. So just was encouraged by their maturity and how they handled business when they're gone.
What can you say about the job that Greg Morgenthaler and his staff do in the weeks and really months in the lead up to the Army-Navy game?
Well, and I've said this before, and I think Greg and the staff, they're the best in the business. Greg Morgenthaler has always done an awesome job with our equipment, always done a great job, them and his staff, and Greg and Under Armour, and Chet, as they collaborate on some of the themes. Obviously, Under Armour and their people are the ones who design it. But as, they, a lot of the concepts and a lot of the ideas that they have are, they're formulated years in advance, as they talk as Chet and Greg and, they talk at Under Armour, just some of the things that they like to do and some of their ideas, and to see it come to fruition is pretty cool. But, Greg and them, they do an awesome job of getting ready, but it's a busy time for them because it's like you got a whole new set of uniforms coming in, and it's almost like the beginning of the camp, all the boxes that are outside of the equipment room.
And how do you select the lei that you wear each year for the Army-Navy game?
Well, originally it's to get it from a lady from Hawaii. Unfortunately, she had passed away, and so then her daughter had been giving me leis. So it's just, it started a little while back, and it's kind of gone that way.
Do you get a great response from that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've obviously being from Hawaii, it's something to try to represent being from Hawaii, but very appreciative of those who, give me the lei.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Scott.
Kareem Copeland, Washington Post.
Hey, Ken, how are you?
Hey, Kareem.
I'm going to go back actually to the uniforms. I had a couple real quick about that for you, easy stuff. It's such a cool tradition that you guys have in, college football. There's so many different iterations of uniforms and jerseys, but this is always kind of like a marquee game for that. From your perspective, I'm just curious, what makes it unique from your guys' perspectives, and how much do the guys kind of get into it?
Our players love it, Kareem. I think it's a great opportunity. Obviously, we're the only game on TV, so nationally for us, the exposure nationally for Under Armour. So it's a chance for Under Armour, even though they're a huge company, to showcase their talents and their design team and their designers. And every year they just outdo themselves. Every year they come up with great concepts, great ideas. But our players definitely look forward to it. We use it a lot in recruiting. Like I said, the exposure that it gets, Kareem, because of, we're the only game on TV. It's cool for our team, our program, and also it's a great opportunity for Under Armour to showcase their skills.
And you touched on it real quick. That was going to be my follow-up. Is that a recruiting tool? Is that something that you can sell that guys coming out of high school respond to?
Most definitely. Everybody wants a little bling. Everybody wants a little swag. Everybody wants, some, wants nice unis. And we definitely use that. We feel very fortunate that, Under Armour's closed down their football clientele as far as the amount of schools that they represent, and we're still one of them. So we feel very, very blessed, very fortunate to be with them as our partners. And they've been doing an awesome job, but we definitely use that in recruiting.
Cool. Quick and easy for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Green.
Pete Medhurst, Navy Radio Network.
Coach, is there any sense this week of trying to keep emotions level and peak on Saturday, especially with 3 weeks to think about, prepare, and try to understand your assignments for a game where the marquee certainly sells everything from an emotion standpoint coming up this week?
Yeah, I was just talking with somebody about that as we were just talking, the bye came at a good time because we were beat up and it was nice to have the time off, but you have 3 weeks, we haven't had 3 weeks off in a long time. So you wonder how you'll be when you come back. We definitely needed the rest. And so just trying to structure our 3 weeks to make sure that, we peak this Saturday and not peak too early and not peak after, and not be beat up before we get to the game, but also be pad ready when we get to the game. You're always juggling that. And we'll see, we feel good about our plan, Pete, but, the game is always the tell, how you play. We were playing really well before the buys. And so that was my one concern. Do you lose some of your rhythm? But we took it and made the most of it. Use the rest, try to recover, try to get the guys back, try to get mended a little bit, and, try to be in, top form and shape mentally and physically when, this Saturday.
From a coaching standpoint, was there a chance to ramp down at least briefly, mentally, and maybe even physically here for you and your staff because of that extra time?
Yeah, we took Thanksgiving off, but it's hard to take it completely off because you still have your laptops with you. You know what I mean? So it's, so you're always still doing stuff. I mean, you try to get away, you try to enjoy Thanksgiving dinner, or watch some games, then you always come back to your iPad or your laptop and do stuff. But I don't know if you ever, in this profession, you can never truly just shut it down. Now, you may not, be in office or whatever, but you got to constantly evolve. And you might be watching the game. There's a lot of times I'll watch games, I'll see something, take notes, somebody did this or whatever. So you try your best to, Pete, ramp down a little bit to try to make sure that we're fresh when we go, but that's easier said than done.
Outside of the rare, spectacular, special individual performance of late, these have all the Service Academy games have been shoebox games, short amount of possessions. Everything is magnified. Everything that you do, a couple of first downs can result in points that can be critical in a game like this. How do you make sure that, kids don't have too much pressure? You and your staff don't put too much pressure on yourselves, knowing that this is likely to be a game that has a smaller amount of possessions in it.
Yeah, it's like you said, it always is. These games always have, shorter possessions, not as many possessions. And we've tried to limit possessions as it is beginning with. I mean, already, offensively, that's what we always try to do. They do the same thing. So when you have two teams that are doing the same thing, it makes it for a really short game. So, obviously we got to make sure that our eyes are right, that they, play action wise, that they don't get us on anything, and try to do your best to get people on the ground. You know what I mean? But they always are slugfest. It's always tough sledding in there. And then also you got to have your eyes right on the back end.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks, Pete.
Bill Wagner, Annapolis Capital.
So, Coach, you mentioned with the long layoff, were you able to get any players back that were maybe had been injured, did not play in Central Florida or games prior that are going to be able to play in this one?
David Hickson is back practicing. So he'd been out for a little bit. So, started for the most part of the early part of the season. So he's back. Trying to think of anybody else.
Nathan
Kent probably be back. So those are two guys.
And you talked about the rarity of having, 3 weeks off in total between games. Did maybe last week you go good on good and hit a little bit just to get that physicality? Because this is such a physical game. You don't want to just roll in having not really hit too much since you played Central Florida, or do you think at this point in the season you don't need to worry about that?
We've hit. That's all I'll say. We've done some hitting, and so you have to. You got to get ready. You just got to be careful though, Wags. But you're right. You can't hit for 3 weeks, which you can't go into this game without not having a hit at all. It's like Pete just mentioned. It's going to be a physical game between the tackles on the edge, and so yeah, you definitely got to get some physical stuff against each other, or try to get as good competition as you can. But again, there's always still that fine line. But yeah, you definitely got to do some Wags.
So obviously, it's been a long time between your initial service academy game against Air Force. Do you feel the offense has come a long way since then, and maybe better equipped to grind it out against the team that knows the option so well?
Well, you always think you get better. It's so we lost 13-10. They lost 13-7. We missed a field goal. Feel like we could have tied it. So the games are always tight. And so, but that's the way it is. It's like you lose by a field goal, and the team that's got the Commander-in-Chief trophy, they get you by a field goal. So I don't know if there's ever been games where the offense is going to get a ton of yards, because there's not very many possessions. It's not like it's Oklahoma and SMU and Memphis that you're throwing the ball and everybody gets 20 possessions. So sometimes people misconstrue that there's not much offense going on, but it's you don't have very many possessions. And so the numbers get skewed one way or the other. It doesn't mean that the offense isn't doing anything. It's just the way the games are played, and they always are that way. I think Scott, tell me if I'm wrong, but there haven't been 19. I'm trying to think the 30-point games, just 19.
Yeah,
But
few and far between.
one of our better teams, Wags, in 15, it was 21-17. You know what I mean? And that was 17 and 15 and 19 are two of the best offenses that have ever come through this place. And so it's not that. It's just the nature of the way the game is. They're short games, and so hopefully we are better than Wags. We'll see though. I guess time will tell.
And lastly, for me, everybody talks about the uniforms, and there's all sorts of other pageantry, and there's tons of people in your team hotel, all the parents and families, etc. I know that you do a good job, and the staff does a good job of trying to really dial down on what matters, which is the football game. But is it sometimes hard to get these guys to? It is a lot happening with an Army-Navy game, and I can imagine guys getting very starry-eyed, if you will.
That's always the key. Can you get your team to play with your emotion, but have some sense about you? But you're right, Wags. there's always a lot of stuff going on. You got family members coming to the hotel and getting tickets, and you're worried about all of that. And then you're playing the game. Then you got the pep rally, and like you said, all that goes on. There's a lot of spinning wheels going on, a lot of juggling the balls, so to speak, and you got to find a way to stay focused on the things that matter most and keep the main thing, which is easier said than done. You know what I mean? But you're 1,000% right, Wags.
Before 19, the previous last time Navy scored 30 was in 2013, 34-7 win. Last time Army scored 30 was 1998, 34-30 Army win. Let's go back to Phil. 2 questions each.
Coach, you've talked about this in the past, but Xavier having that experience starting in an Army-Navy game, but also playing in last year's game, what are the benefits of having a quarterback that's gotten to participate in such a storied rivalry?
Just watching Xavier, I mean, he was a true freshman, and when we went up there in the fall game, and we had never, in all my years of being here, we'd never played there, and the guy that's going to start there is a true freshman that didn't get any reps in camp. As I look back at it, Phil, he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. He's ready now. And that's the thing that, it's going to be a slugfest, but you feel better going into this game because Xavier now is plays a couple years. He played against Army in the, lacrosse and the N-Star game. But these last 4 games that he's played, I mean, probably, again, and I always said that the stretch in November is probably the toughest stretch that I can remember being here, and going from Cincinnati, playing Notre Dame at Baltimore, which it's not, not really a home game, but it's closer to us. And then obviously going to UCF, and he played well in all of those games. And I could just see the game slowing down for him. So that's why I'm encouraged, because I see X and Xavier, the game slowing down for him. Now he can use his skill sets, and play where really, when we went there during the pandemic year, I mean, he was just running around, just running, but he knows what he's doing now. He knows offense. So, Coach Jasper and I feel much better about going into this game with him as our quarterback because he knows offense. And so, that'll give us a chance.
Last for me, off of the gridiron, you've been in this game a long time. Do you have any traditions that you do with your family the week of Army Navy, whether it's go to a restaurant, watch a movie, have a meal, anything like that?
Ask me after the game. I'll tell you I don't want to jinx it, but I'll tell you the stuff.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Scott Wyckoff.
Coach, how do you like your depth going into this game, knowing that the guys are going to be putting it all on the line, and if someone's maybe gassed or gets nicked, that you've got the guys to go in for them?
Scott, I feel good, but you also recognize that it's going to be a short game. It's last year we had 50-something snaps. They had 50-something snaps, 55 snaps or so. And the game's always in that ballpark, 55 to 60 snaps. So, and with all the TV timeouts and everything, it's not going to be the guys are tired. And it's not like teams are trying to go up tempo. We both huddle. It's a slow paced game. It's like you try to punch each other for 7 seconds, then you go rest, and you come back and try to punch each other for 7 seconds. But it's not like a constant deal, just like football is. But because both teams are slow paced teams and we don't get much rest, I like our depth, but sometimes it doesn't come into play because you don't have to play as many guys because you don't get as many reps.
I know when you were talking about the hiring of Coach Newberry, one of the keys was these games in the service academy, specifically the Army game. This is the 4th season you've had him. What's impressed you the most about how he's gone about preparing this defense and putting a defense up against Army?
Well, the way we played against them since he's been the coordinator is the exact reason I hired him. Is the exact reason that I hired him, just from a standpoint of, I talked to some really good defensive coordinators, maybe at Power 5 or other schools or, big time programs. But a big part of my interview processes. What was their option background, and who did they play? And if they play somebody, I would try to quiz them. You know what I mean? Like, okay, what do you do against this? What are your thoughts versus this? And really, in my mind, the interview might have ended a lot earlier than the guy interviewed realized. So, the questions his answers may not have been very good. I might have, kind of favored him with a couple more questions just to realize that. But if a guy didn't know what he's talking about, it was over for me. But with Brian, he knew option football, and he had great ideas, very detailed stuff, probably as detailed as stuff. When sometimes you look at Coach Newberry's stuff, it might look like chaos and mayhem. There's a method to his madness, and people are doing things like to other people, like, oh, that guy's just running around over there. He's lined up over here for no reason. There's great detail in it, but it gives you the illusion that it's mayhem and chaos. And that's the thing that I've always loved about what he did. That's why I hired him, because I loved the way he confused people and was aggressive. But most importantly, I loved his option football background. And he's proven, just look at what he's done since he's been here. The one time we went up there in the snow game, in the fall game, neither one of us could move the ball, and we only had a week to prepare. They had 3 weeks, but we only had a week to prepare, and neither one of us could move the ball. They punted the ball a little bit better than us, and so that's how they're gaining yards. It was one of those old school the AFC, games in the 80s where it's a slugfest in Cleveland or something, or Cincinnati. And so he's done an awesome job, Scott, since he's been here. But everything that he's done, grateful that he's here, and I'm grateful that he decided to come here.
Great. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks, Scott.
Kareem.
Hey, Ken, what catches your eye the most about their defense?
Well, obviously, Carter's a big time player. You know what I mean? That, you got to be aware of, his size, and, you don't see too many guys 6'7", 265. Markel Brown, their safeties are really, really good players. Their linebacker, 31 Lowndes, a good player. So they got good players. Woody's I don't know him personally, but you just watch his defense. Very, very well coached. Reminds me a lot of Buddy Green. Just kind of what they do. It just guys are sound. They're fundamentally sound. They run to the ball. They do everything right. It's hard tricking those guys. So it's a mark of a guy that knows option football, because he's been around it. He was at Wofford for many years, and so he knows option football. But he's a good old school football coach. I say old school. The guy's obviously a great coach right now too. So Coach Woody does a good job, and he's got some good players. Obviously with Carter leading the way.
And just one more, I want to follow up a little bit on Xavier real quick. You talked about how he knows the offense a lot more, and things have slowed down for him. But I kind of want to ask about his maturity and his growth as a leader. How has he grown and matured in that way?
I think it's a great question. So, leaving to go to lacrosse, then he came back, and he was still Xavier, but I don't think he was as vocal, because obviously you're not the starter. So you do your work, you do your job, Ty is the starter. And so not that you stay in the background, so to speak, but you're running with the twos, and you're getting reps with the twos. So, it's not always easy to be the most vocal guy when you're the backup quarterback. So, he, like I said, he worked hard, did his deal, but you could see, even from the Temple game to the Cincinnati game, when he came in, still a little in a backup mode, so to speak. But I think towards the ending part of the game, he started to take the reins. And I just felt like the Cincinnati game, I came away from that game, even though we lost, and I think I said it before, I'm like, we're back. I think we got a shot. You know, we just seen him at a hostile environment, a place that they'd won whatever, how many straight games. I thought he played really, really well, played good, and backed that up with the Notre Dame game. Played lights out and backed it up with UCF. And so I've seen him, once he became the starter, he changed, because now he's the starter. You know, it's like, okay, it's my team now. You know, I got to start doing this. I got to be more vocal. Well, it's a little bit harder to do that, Kareem, when you're back up. You know what I mean? So because of him becoming the starter, he became more vocal. But I mean, he's a confident guy to begin with, but you couldn't really do anything prior to that just because of your role where you stood on the depth chart.
Makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Thanks, Kareem.
Bill Wagner.
Well, you alluded to it earlier with missing a field goal against the Air Force, but so much emphasis is put on Navy's offense versus Army's defense and vice versa. But can you talk about the importance of special teams and how that could turn the tide in this game?
Yeah, another great point, Wags. Yes, it's huge. And I mean, last week, our last win, we had to make a kick. But you know, how many games have we won against Service Academy on, you know, a last second field goal or a field goal? And so, you know, those are important. But special teams are going to be important. You know, we converted on a miscommunicated fake punt last year, but that was a big play. You know what I mean? It allowed us to extend the drive, and then I don't know how long the drive that was after that, Strauss. But you know, so because of the accident, then we ended up, you know, having, you know, continue on the drive, and then we were able to possess the ball, you know, for a long time. And so that was huge. And so you're exactly right. With two teams that are going to be trying to slug it out, that, you know what each other does, special teams are going to be huge in this game.
Is your long snapper going to have the freedom to call a fake punt if he wants?
No. It's just, well, like I said, like you just think about it, it's like, I still don't know how Diego caught that ball. I mean, I still to this day, like, thank goodness he's a good athlete, man. That thing would have been in the end zone, man. It's like, anyways, that's.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go one more, Wags. Go ahead.
I lost my train of thought there. Go ahead to Pete then. I'm sorry.
Okay, sorry. Pete Medhurst. We got 4 minutes.
Coach Daba and Anton early in the season could have packed it up and folded up as players. Thoughts on how they played through the adversity, and more importantly, how did they get through that to really have some big moments and be very productive here for you?
Another great point, Pete. I think that's a bit another key to our offense and our team. You know, just Daba stayed the course, Anton stayed the course. You know, we struggled early on that position, but if you can take it to the house against the Irish, and you know, Ton took it to the house versus Memphis. I mean, these kids can run. You know what I mean? And so we knew they were talented, but them to be able to showcase their talents against good people after starting off to rough starts. You know, we weren't very productive there early on. First of all, it's a great, you know, you have to attribute that first and foremost to them, Pete, and also to Coach McDonald. You know, so the players have done an awesome job staying the course, and Coach Jason McDonald has done a really good job coaching them. And that's another big part of our turnaround, just those two guys.